My name is Dr. Sean George, and in 2008, I died.
I haven't seen many things that I would call a miracle. In fact, I don't think I've seen anything I'd call a miracle, except for this.
I think people often expect miracle claims to come from the uneducated or unqualified. So what's your profession?
I'm a professor of emergency medicine.
Senior consultant physician.
Staff nephrologist.
Pediatrician.
Paramedic, senior medical officer.
I was doing all the forensic work in the whole district.
And what would you say to people who expect claims like these to come from a religious bias?
This is not something that was happening in a religious sort of a closed bubble. People from all walks of life can give evidence about what they saw.
I'm not religious.
I'm a Hindu.
I'm a practical, clinical scientist, a humanist, rather than driven by any faith. I'm not trying to manufacture the story or embellish it in any way at all. This is just the facts.
Before we start, I want to be really clear. Would you call this a miracle?
You can't explain apart from miracle.
I can certainly say that was one miracle I've
Yeah,
seen.
this is a miracle.
Oh yes, I really do believe that is a miracle.
My name is Dr. Sean George. I work as a consultant physician and head of Department of Internal Medicine at Kalgoorlie Hospital.
Dr. Sean is quite a remarkable human being. He's always maintained some of the highest professional standards.
Very knowledgeable. More importantly, I think he connects to his patients, so that's important.
He's part of the community. Like Australia, we live in two different worlds. The white fellas over there and we over here. But people like Sean have crossed over,
Sean and me, we have a very special relationship. We're best friends more than a husband and wife.
We've been married for the last 27 years. We have a son. His name is Michael. He's 21. So I got that right.
Yeah. Something I look towards in my dad to aspire to be is to put God first in my life, as he does. My mum is the most kind-hearted person I know. They're such busy people, but they always have time for each other as well.
I think the most special thing for us is the morning quiet time that we have together, where we read the Bible and spend time praying together before we start the day, and that's wonderful. I work at the emergency department at the hospital in Kalgoorlie.
It's actually really good that both of us are doctors because we come across life and death almost on a daily basis. And that's when we can really extend a loving hand to each other and support one another. It seemed like a very normal day to me. It was the 24th of October, 2008. We normally do about 5 diabetes clinics a year to Esperance, which is about 400 kilometers along the coast. And on Friday morning, I was returning home, and that's when everything happened. We started our journey at about 9:30 in the morning. It was not too long into the journey that I began to experience discomfort in my chest. It was not a pain, but it was just a slight discomfort, and I thought, oh, it must be something that I ate. So I continued to drive. My intern had actually never driven in Australia. I had driven almost 350 kilometers. I began to actually feel a bit of nausea. So I decided to actually stop the car on the side of the road. That's the first time I was telling my intern that I had discomfort in the chest. Now, an intern is a newly graduated doctor, and that's the first job they're doing as a doctor. So the moment I actually told her that I had discomfort in my chest, she almost became white. And, we're in the middle of nowhere in the outback. There's nothing around to help. So I said, could you just check my pulse? Because that's about the only thing that she could probably do in the middle of nowhere. In a situation like this, if you're having a heart attack, sometimes your pulse rate will be very high. So she checked my pulse and it seemed fairly normal. I was not convinced at this stage that it was indigestion. I thought there's something much more sinister. So I decided to get out of the car and I wanted to call my wife, Sherry.
I had gone to my friend's house to do some study, and that's when Sean called.
And I told her, look, Sherry, I'm having a bit of discomfort in my chest. I'm not feeling that great. We are about 80 kilometers from Kalgoorlie, and I'm just about to turn into Kambalda.
And I remember asking him, do you have chest pain? And he said,
I don't feel too bad, but I do have the discomfort. I'm feeling a bit of nausea.
So I said, oh, do you think you'll be able to drive up to the hospital? And he said,
yeah, I think I can definitely drive. And she said, okay, I'll inform your colleague, Dr. Praveen Shetty, who is the consultant who works with me. And so she said,
I will see you at the hospital. Why don't you come straight there? And that was the plan.
I hopped back into the car and I turned into Kambalda and I started to drive down that road. But while I was traveling on that road, I really felt a deep conviction in my heart that I need to actually get into the clinic at Kambalda. Now, Kambalda is a small mining town and there's a small family practice or general practice in that town. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Unfortunately, the doctor had actually gone for lunch. So as I stepped into the clinic, there was the receptionist and the nurse, and I explained to them who I am and could I please have an ECG done. And they said, yep, no problem, come with us. And they actually did an ECG for me. And they actually handed the ECG over to me. Now, that's very unusual because normally, as a patient, the doctor will read the ECG. But because the doctor was out to lunch, they handed me the ECG because I was both the doctor and the patient. And if you look at this ECG, you will see that in lead 2, lead 3, and AVF, there's what we called as ST segment elevation. What it really means is that I was having a heart attack in the inferior wall of my heart. Now, you can imagine, I was looking at my own ECG. I said, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack. You know, that might seem really strange, but remember, I'm a doctor and I know exactly what that means. At this stage, I was getting very anxious, and that's the honest truth. Because I was not looking at someone else's ECG, I was looking at mine. Basically, at that stage, I started to actually have quite a lot of chest pain. And I told the nursing staff, can you please call the doctor who is at lunch and ask him to come because I need help. When he saw me, he said, Sean, you're only 39 years old. There's no way that you're having a heart attack. You're probably having indigestion. I know that he was actually trying to calm me down because at that stage, I was really getting stressed out and the pain was getting more and more. So when the doctor actually came, he said, let's go to the next room and let me do another ECG for you. And took me to the next room, and it so happened that that was the resuscitation room. I saw that right next to the bed, there was the resuscitation trolley, and on top of the trolley was the defibrillator machine. So I lay down on the bed there, experiencing quite a lot of chest pain at this time. And they were actually hooking me up to the monitor, and they gave me a shot of morphine, and still the pain was actually quite severe.
I hadn't heard from him for a while, so I just thought I'll find out how he's going. And I called him, and the intern actually picked up the phone, and I said, can I talk to Sean? And she said, oh, can you call back a little later? And I said, no, I want to speak to him now. And I got the call, and he said,
Sherry, I'm actually in Kambalda Health Center now. I have actually done an ECG and I'm having a heart attack.
And I just couldn't believe what I heard.
She was obviously quite shocked by that. And I said, look, they will bring me from the clinic by ambulance. I won't be driving anymore. Whatever you do, don't try and drive to Kambalda. Don't worry about me. Everything will be fine.
Well,
as I was laying down on the bed, I noticed that my pain was getting worse. I looked at the heart monitor and I noticed that my pulse rate was going up. My blood pressure was actually going up, and I was thinking to myself, that's not good. And that was the last thing that I actually remember seeing.
I received a phone call from Kambalda. I was told that he'd had a cardiac arrest. It was quite concerning to me, obviously. I didn't want to lose my friend, neither did I want to lose my head of medicine. So I went down to the emergency department. Dr. Steve Dungy was working there.
He said, Sean's had an arrest and CPR is in progress. Will you go down there? I really argued. I had a job to do at the hospital and I just felt like it was a waste of time. I said, I don't know where Kambalda is. I said, I don't have a car. He said, we can lend you a a Country Health car, and someone to drive with you down there.
I think he was quite dubious about being any use at all because Kambalda was about 60k, so it would take at least half an hour to get there.
I was the most reluctant person you've ever seen. I just said, this is a waste of time. He's either going to survive or he's not, and my presence at his resuscitation is not going to make any difference. When I get there in 45 or 50 minutes, he'll be dead or alive, and I've got no ability to impact on the outcome. I think he'll be dead, you know. And he said, will you please, as a favour, please just go down. He's the head of medicine.
He agreed to go, so I was very pleased about that.
So I jumped into a car with a colleague, Dr. Reddy, and we trundled down the road. I did not break the speed limit. I didn't think there was any point because, you know, we're so familiar with this. I knew what the outcome was going to be. I thought I did.
What I was told by the doctors who were there on the day was that I actually had a seizure, and that was it. I was in cardiac arrest. So the doctor and my intern immediately, along with the nursing staff, started to do CPR until they could actually connect me to the defibrillator. While my resuscitation was actually happening in Kambalda, Sherry actually received a phone call.
Sherry, Sean's wife, was with me, and Ben Ansell was one of our good friend of both me and Sean.
Dr. Shetty got the call and he was so stunned. I think he didn't know what to say.
I got a call saying that
we've got Dr. Sean George here, and he's had a cardiac arrest, and we've tried to resuscitate him, and we haven't been successful so far.
I remember him saying, "What?" And he kept saying, "What?" And then he just said, Sherry, Sean's arrested.
Sherry got obviously very upset, and then we said, okay, we should drive down.
It didn't make any sense to me because I'd spoken to Sean a few minutes ago. I didn't realize that it was that serious.
I was shocked to actually find out that this person was my boss, Sean. So that was the shock.